like you've got a voice that isn't being heard. Concerned by the direction the world's taking. Angered by news reports which avoid the issues. It's time to strike back. Indie Media, an increasingly popular website, allows you to publish your reports and views, connect to a global network of alternative media, and get the in-depth information that the mainstream chooses to ignore, all at the click of a button. From the cut and thrust of London to the revolutionary hills of Chiapas, Indie Media is building a global following. Up to the minute and packed with a constant stream of informative text, images, audio and video, the site can be updated literally anytime, anywhere, and by anyone. Unsponsored, uncensored, this unique real-life news source gives you a direct line to the realities that shape our daily lives. You know what this means. We're all journalists now.
Failed in their principal goal, which was to form a UN barricade around the building here. They were going to try to bar the World Bank and IMF, International Monetary Fund officials from meeting here. They simply could not do that. They did not have the numbers. Still, they gave the Prague police a heck of a scare. Throughout the afternoon, there were pitched battles. A small left-wing band of hardcore demonstrators, anarchists, neo-communists, neo-Marxists, kept repeatedly outflanking the Prague police.
Fucking jail. Been in the custody of the Czech Republic for disturbing the peace for about 18 hours. We did nothing.
I mean, you know, firstly I want to say I don't think the World Bank's a monolith. I'm not going to pretend that 10,000 people employed by this institution are all evil, even though the net effect of the institution is truly evil. It literally has displaced tens of millions of people in its history, has destroyed the lives, if not killed, millions of people during that time. But individuals in it may have compassion, may be convinced that what they're doing is right. What the ideological difference is between our views of the world is that they believe 10,000 people, mostly white men, in suits, flying desks in Washington, D.C., can determine what's good for the rest of the world. What we actually see is that the bank's spending is increasingly in the arena of private sector subsidy rather than any kind of excusable effort at poverty alleviation, even if it's misguided and incorrect. So in fact, the World Bank is increasing its direct effect, an attempt to enrich the already powerful and rich, and lessening its efforts, as poor and misguided as they were, to alleviate the poverty of the many.
In the World Bank, you have $1, you have one vote. You know, and we should have a system where you get more democratically, because then who decides in the World Bank? United States, Japan, some countries in Europe, period. What about the rest of the world, which is the immense majority? They have nothing to say.
time at the border. We stood at the border for a really long time in the rain. It was lovely. Oh, why? Because they taped off this little corner of the land and said it was the Czech Republic. And they wouldn't let us step out of it or get any food or water or shelter, and they were doing a bunch of stupid bureaucratic stuff because they don't like us because they're scared. Because we think we're going to get back on our bikes like we've been for a really long time and go to Prague! Woo!
And just to go back a little bit further to a sort of philosophical point, and that is around the whole notion of development and what development banks and institutions are for. And that is that it is a false notion, and it was set up only 50 years ago in 1945 when Harry Truman gave his inaugural speech. He was shopping around for a foreign policy after kicking their ass in the Second World War, and he coined this phrase where he said, we have to help the underdeveloped. In so saying, he cast at that time 2.5 billion people as somehow less than citizenry of the United States. And what he was saying was, we want to get them up to our standard of living. And it's all measured in terms of how much you consume and how far you drive in a car and what your cash income is. And those drive in a car and what your cash income is. And those standards have been the yardsticks by which we measure development, in which the success of foreign policy and aid institutions and the World Bank and other things is measured. It's ridiculous to pretend we can generalize through 6 billion people the standards of living that a few people enjoy in the US and Europe and Japan and Australia. If we were to try to do that just in terms of consumption of raw materials, you'd need 6 planets as mines and waste dumps just to go through. The whole exercise is based on a completely false assumption that we can do development, that we would want to do development. And these institutions, we would want to do development. And these institutions are pursuing that goal willy-nilly, taking your money and mine as taxpayers in order to go on with this lie and destroy people's lives in the course of their work.
Also das hier ist das Büro von der Border Solidarity Group und wir versuchen Leute zu unterstützen, die an der Grenze Schwierigkeiten haben, die Leute trotzdem am besten, am leichtesten oder sonst wie halt hier ins schöne Prag kommen können, um ihr Recht auf Demonstrationsfreiheit wahrzunehmen.
I'm not entirely sure that it's not, but I do know some people. Okay. It's up near Letna where the demonstration is going to start this afternoon.
Gut, also gerade aktuell ist ein Zug mit ungefähr 800 bis 900 Leuten, die aus Italien kommen.
E siamo fermi da questa mattina alle 4 dopo che una serie di compagni e compagne sono stati presi e riportati oltre il confine, cioè in Austria, 17 precisamente, e altri 4 sono qui all'interno del treno, tra cui io, e non ci viene impedito di continuare il nostro percorso verso Praga. Riteniamo che la motivazione sia molto semplice. Tutte le persone a cui viene detta questa cosa sono quelle che hanno partecipato alle riunioni preliminari ad agosto in organizzazione di questi giorni contro la Banca Mondiale e il Fondo Monetario Internazionale.
So we are going to the Ministry of Interior to make like a little bit silent protest against that our friends are stopped on the border and they are not allowed to cross and go in to support our protest.